BRN, where educators share what works.
I think we're in this real grey zone at the moment where the AI has advanced faster than academic institutions, but I feel we're going to get through this.
It's because of all of you that I feel more comfortable in understanding and playing with AI. As educators, not to be alone. We need that group.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Happy New Year.
Good to see you.
Happy New Year. Great to see you.
What a year it's been. As we know, I think ChatGPT was released in November of 2022, so it is just barely a year old, but 2023 has definitely been the year of AI in education. Seemed like what better way to spend this morning together over this wonderful steaming cup of coffee than to just kind of reflect on the year, everything we've experienced, everything we've encountered, everything we think. How's 2023 been in the world of educational AI for all of you?
Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. I've learned so much.
I would say mind-blowing and overwhelming.
I would say mind-blowing, but still going very, very slowly.
What do you mean?
What we can and cannot do because of privacy laws, and so maybe what educators are using or not using, so just kind of moving slow. But for me, pretty cool. I've been using it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll say that I've been using it in ways that I never even anticipated, personally and professionally. I like to be creative, but I can barely draw a stick figure. So some of the image generation platforms have been really rewarding for me to create images that reflect what I want to create without really having the raw artistic ability. Student feedback, streamlining my work, personal uses, just every time I don't understand something, uploading it to a generative AI bot and asking about it. So yeah, I agree, mind-blowing, and Dan, you're right, overwhelming as well.
So my 2023, goodness me, what an experience with AI. So I, in the spring semester with my students on the forensic linguistics course that I've talked about before, did exploratory case study research, and we just tried out different aspects of AI every single week. That has all been written up. That's a book that will be published soon. And based on that, I designed a course, which I've just finished teaching yesterday, which is called Mastering AI Chatbots. And I wrote, as you have to write the syllabus and everything, what you're going to do, the assessment methods, and submit that in advance of the semester starting. I have to admit, I mean, we had to throw most of it out the window because the technology was changing week by week. And we were just changing the tools we were using, changing the assessments. It was impossible to stick with something that I'd written in September and for it still to be relevant by the end of December.
Dan, you've really jumped in feet first, maybe more than the rest of us. What kind of year was it for you and your students?
There was so much so fast to try to navigate. I spent a lot of time looking for the best tool because I found that some of them you could do a lot with, but the output wasn't necessarily high quality. That there were smaller tools that produced better work. So it's a matter of figuring out what tool to use for which project I'm working on. What do I need to move from this tool to that tool to make it the best product that I need? So we now have AI smashing instead of just app smashing.
Has that been fun for you or more of a heavy lift? Sometimes exploring as an educator can be like, oh, cool, like you're almost in the beta tester mode, and then sometimes it can be arduous. Where did that land for you?
It is time consuming. I will say that.
Okay.
It is time consuming. Sometimes you get pulled into a rabbit hole that you're like, you have a hard time getting out of because you just find newer and newer ways of doing what you wanted to do. It became so consuming that it was starting to impact time with family.
Right. So I guess I'm curious if we could go around the table here. Highs and lows. What for this year with AI in your classrooms, in your applications professionally, what has been your number one high? What has been your number one low?
I would say my number one high has been seeing the students' reactions to it. Of course, I'm lucky my whole course was based around AI. And yeah, if I'm honest, halfway through the course, really, my students turned into the instructors, which is what we really want, and not me. They were so excited. They were finding different tools. They were suggesting projects. They were suggesting assignments. And really, by the second half of the semester, I handed over to them. And and again, this is collaboration. So with all the students working together and sharing these ideas, we really took our thinking and our usage of AI much further. The downside, I could tell you, is my credit card, because I get so excited about all the new tools that I sign up for them all and I try them all out. And now what I really need to do, like Dan was saying, some are really great, some not so good. I need to go through and start pruning my subscriptions and just stick to the ones that are working really well for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
One of my highs has been seeing the potential that a lot of the tools have, how it does make my workload lighter. I mean, things just like leveling a reading assignment. You know, teaching 7th and 8th grade, I can pretty easily recognize 7th and 8th grade material, but if you ask me to level that down to 4th grade, I really wouldn't know what to do.
That's interesting.
I do the same actually, Dan, with I turn lots of texts and I put them in to ChatGPT and I say, please can you make this more understandable for non-native speakers of English? And that's really useful.
Yeah, but one of the lows would be just this negative perspective of AI. If you tell somebody that you made something with AI, it devalues what you've made.
I've encountered that too.
If I say, look at this pamphlet that I made, just so you know that the people are not real, those are all AI generated people, and they'll be like, did you create the questions with ChatGPT? Like there's something wrong with that. Like the question isn't valid anymore. That's been a hard thing to process is it still valuable if it's made with AI?
I'll give you a quick example of that in a very systemic way. We write letters of recommendation quite a bit in higher ed, and I'm sure K-12 too, at least at the high school level. And so I write a lot of letters of recommendation for students who are applying to medical school and PA school, as well as graduate school. The reason why I highlight medical and PA schools because they have centralized application systems. CASPA is a website. It's the centralized application system for physician assistance programs. So the students applying to a physician assistant program, they apply through CASPA, and then CASPA sends their information to all the individual schools they're applying to. The reason why I give that background is because I recently wrote a letter for a student and uploaded it to CASPA. And to do the upload, I had to check a box stating that I did not use generative AI in any way to create that letter. Now, I'll say I completely understand checking the box saying that this letter was not completely created by generative AI. I would be against anybody using AI to write the letter from scratch. But I find generative AI to be helpful in my phrasing, to be helpful in my grammar, to be a wonderful editor. And in order to check that box, I can't use AI at all. I almost feel like it was tying not a full arm behind my back, but maybe a hand and a wrist. So Dan, to your point very much, there is this connotation that using AI is cheating, even professionally and academically.
All right. So here's a couple of things, Tom, I was thinking. I love the way that you said grammar. So yes, I'm working on my dissertation. And my highs are, I've really been using more ChatGPT to have a conversation with someone other than my husband, to sometimes get ideas, or to take my writing and then say, can you help me rewrite this in a different way? But you're right, Dan. I'm the person who's finalizing what it is that I'm using in my writing. Mm-hmm. And so it helps me to think. And I do not see that any differently than using Grammarly.
Or a colleague.
Or a colleague.
Yeah. So as I was re-looking at my questions or putting things in, my chair said, I know you're not using ChatGPT, and so we can all think about what's current in the landscape of education right now at Harvard with President Gay. I know you're not using it to write your dissertation. And I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I do use it to ask it some questions or upload my conceptual framework to say, well, what does this say to you? But I do the same thing with my husband and or colleagues when we're together on a call to get information from one another. But then I also recognize when I'm sending my work to an editor and I'm asking you to look at my grammar or help me with my structure. And then the same thing, like I said, when I'm using Grammarly and paying for that, how is that any different? Yes, I'm against the whole thing is written by somebody else, but that's the same as paying somebody else to write your whole paper. But I don't understand why I'm not allowed to use something to aid me in my writing. So my highs have been feeling more comfortable using it to help me with everyday tasks. I've noticed now there's even a space on ChatGPT where it says, you can cite what you got from here. And I'm like, wow, okay. My lows are, along with Dan, people thinking if I even mention the word ChatGPT, it's like, well, then you didn't think for yourself. So my thought is, am I getting a stigma if I say I used it?
So I'll share my highs and lows in a second, but I really want to emphasize and discuss this point because I think it's important, especially at year's end. I'm going to propose a metaphor or an example here that I think captures the pushback on using generative AI. And I'd like the three of you to either poke holes in the metaphor or let me know if I've got something here, got something good. So what I'm hearing from all of you and what I've experienced would be, in my mind, synonymous to an organization that's vetting letters of recommendation from my example before, or an editor of an academic journal, or an administrator. It would be synonymous to them saying, oh, did you have Bob help you with this? Because Bob is too smart and Bob is too helpful. So if you went to Bob about this, that's a problem. But if you went to anybody else, that's okay. Like, am I right? Is that the synonymous case here?
Bob is also what I refer to my verbal ChatGPT as. No, I think you're totally right. And Julie, I feel for you writing a thesis in this time, because I think we're in this real grey zone at the moment, where the AI has advanced faster, as always, than academic institutions.
Yes.
And there is a real lack of understanding about how useful this can be in academia for writing. I know this specifically from working recently, trying to write an AI policy for the university. Now, I don't know if you've been provided with the AI policy from your university regarding the thesis and what you think about that in relation to everything we've been discussing. But I feel we're going to get through this. But as a student right now, or, writing a thesis right now, what a difficult time, because it's not understood.
And it's hard because, I don't want to lie. I'm being honest.
No, I'm not using it to write my thesis. Am I using it to get some ideas and suggestions? Absolutely.
Julie, I actually had this same quandary with the publication I've just written, because I've got a chapter on ethics, and it talks about plagiarism, and it talks about citation. And I looked at lots of the conversations going on about how you deal with this, and I tried them, and they're not workable. What I ended up doing is, in that chapter on the ethical implications of using AI in education, is I kind of gave a meta conversation about exactly how I had used it throughout the book. And then I talked about, well, if we follow these conventions about how to reference when you say this, the book would be 5 times longer, totally unreadable, and just would be a load of references to AI. So I felt I had to, especially being an academic, had to get something in there that explained what I'd done, but that isn't necessarily going along with the rules as they are at the moment. And this is the grey zone. And I feel with students at the moment, to deal with this grey zone, maybe a paragraph somewhere having that meta conversation that explains exactly how you've used it. So it's just starting to bridge the gap between, understanding how AI is used, when it's used. We're in this interim stage, and for my students at the moment, just tell me how you used it. Just so I know.
That's exactly. So that gets to one of my highs. One of my highs in using it has been how much it's streamlined my own efforts in giving feedback to students. I've talked quite a bit about that before. But another very selfish high for the year has been this scholarly work it's opened up for me. I'm pre-tenure faculty since I've recently switched positions, chasing tenure on a very, very short tenure clock because of the experience that I have. And I've pretty much done as much research in flipped learning that I can probably do in my previous incarnation of scholarly pursuits, but AI has opened up a whole new avenue of fertile ground for academic work and studies that I've been doing recently. And in that vein, Caroline, I've been doing a lot of academic research in the applications of ChatGPT for papers that I have under consideration. And one that really resonated with me was exactly what you said. There's a professor, I forget from where, but that's how they handle the policy for submitting work where students have used AI. The students have to submit a 1-paragraph description as part of their assignment where they simply provide a narrative with how AI was used. They can use it as extensively or not extensively as they want. They can copy it verbatim or paraphrase it. They just have to state how it was used to give that academic integrity piece. And I think that's probably the most powerful way to work around this, at least right now.
No, I agree.
So low for me has been, again, something I've shared to this group quite openly. This distrust I can't get past. As much as I want to jump in head and feet first simultaneously and just cannonball into the pool of generative AI, I have a lot of reticence and distrust around the tool. And just curious if any of you were feeling even the smallest bit of that, a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of, is it too soon? Is it premature? Is the technology too new?
Absolutely. I really think within our group, I'm the last one. It was really kind of like the way I swim, because I don't know how to swim. So go to the shallow end, dip in a couple of toes, and then slowly, after watching you play in the pool, go, okay, I'm going to try it. So yeah, absolutely was hesitant. And right, I'm that go-to tech person and one of the go-to tech people in the agency. And again, with the data hat on, definitely some apprehensions.
I quite blinkered. I think I'm probably the opposite end of the spectrum to you guys. Me and my credit card jump into every single thing that comes up and like hangs out. I am so excited just this week about, 2 new things that have come up that I wanted to try out. But this is why groups such as ours coming together with all these different takes on it are so useful, because we can, bounce these different ideas around through different lenses.
For me, it's not necessarily been that I have a distrust of it. I am blown away by everything that it can do. I'm just amazed by the image generators and what I can now produce with a single prompt.
Yeah.
Just the doors that opens for me to either show my students or advance what they're doing. I view it as all the opportunities that have now been created instead of seeing it as a doomsday creation and looking for ways that we can maximize it without destroying what we're currently doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you all most excited about looking forward to 20... Oh, I'm sorry, Caroline. Go ahead.
Well, it kind of answers the question you're about to ask. What I'm most excited about is something I saw just yesterday from a guest speaker in class, which is something known as second brain technology. So these are like the information storage retrieval systems. Brains are good at processing information, but brains are bad at retaining information. So all of this cognitive load that our brains are so focused on so much of the time, these second brain applications are there to relieve the load of that. So I'm really hyped and interested in second brain applications. And this links into what you were saying as well, Tom, with regards to research. Just yesterday, I saw the potential of these apps to really help researchers. As we were chatting earlier, I said it's a bit like Google Drive. If you can imagine Google Drive spinning in 3D, and just with a filter, you can pull out whatever you want related to whatever you want at the click of a button and have it show you in a mind map. And then you can dive in and start pulling out information in a really simple way. instead of this linear two-dimensional way we have in folders and saving, that takes so much cognitive load to operate. If you remove that, you can function on actually processing and using that information instead of all this storage and retrieval. That's what I'm really excited about, and I think it's going to have a massive impact on the world of research.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what, additional things, major companies, wondering what's coming from Apple, because something crazy is coming if it's not a time machine or something. Because there's going to be that competition, right? So I'm just curious to see what new things are coming out. I'm just open to see what's coming next.
Dan, if anyone's close to creating a time machine, it's you. I don't even say that flippantly. You've created historical worlds for your students.
Well, one of the things that I'm looking forward to is having someone actually look at the world of a teacher and say, this is a platform that you can customize for your classroom. That's something I haven't seen yet, that you can pull in, all of the different tools onto one dashboard. And these are the things I use the most. This is what I want to use. I can have it all in one place without having to go to this tool, that tool, but having everything customizable for your class. There's just so much out there that you don't even know where to start. But if you can start to click through and customize, just the way you do on like a streaming service, I like this type of movie, this is one of my favorite movies, this is a favorite movie. And then it'll start to compile things that are geared towards you and like, hey, you may want to check this out, and give some suggestions of new tools as they pop up. I think that would be really, really neat. But we also see AI advancing at such a rapid pace that I have no idea where it's going to go, how advanced it's going to be at the end of 2024. And I'm thinking that a lot of our conversation today is either going to be a moot point because it is advanced to such a degree that everything that we've wanted it to do, it can do, and everything that we're terrified that it could do, it could possibly do. And I think it's going to come to the forefront of schools. They're going to have no choice but to recognize it and do something about it because it's going to be prevalently used.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I've been very reluctant to formally use AI with my students. I've been using it extensively, with my administrative obligations. I let my students use it and talk to them about it, but I'm looking forward to a little bit of more regulation, a little bit more protection from the government, Dan, and giving me that confidence that I can point my students towards this tool and not be setting them up for some kind of calamity or consequence later on. If we can get to a point where it's safe to use generative AI, I can't wait to dive all in with my students.
Dan, when you said what you said, it made me think of that Netflix movie, Leave the World Behind.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tesla. Where the self-driving cars were part of the attack in the movie. Sorry for the spoiler if you didn't see it.
Dan, I think you're right. I think all of us could have thought as big and high sky as we possibly could, and we very well might be seeing all of those grand ideas by March, right? What's going to be here by December? Who knows? Who knows? I do know one thing. I'll say this at the end of this year as we move into the next one. The friendship that we share and this group that we share means more to me than I can express. And wherever AI goes in 2024, there's no one I'd rather go there with than all of you. So thanks so much and Happy New Year.
Exactly the same. It's because of all of you that I feel more comfortable in understanding and playing with AI. As educators, not to be alone. We need that communal group, whoever it is, to help us just get comfortable in our skin at our time so we can move forward just like we do with our students. Educators, we need that too. So I appreciate you all as well.
And I appreciate the fact that I have a group of friends that I can talk to and feel comfortable talking with about all of the AI stuff and not feel like I'm being judged because I use it, or, you know, I'm talking to folks who have no idea anything that I'm talking about. You guys are in it, you're doing it, and I'm so thankful for your perspectives, the pushback that you give, and just the perspectives that you all have. I'm just thankful.
Well, everybody, what an incredible year it's been, and I think it's safe to say what an incredible year it's likely going to be. Can't wait to meet at this cafe with all of you week after week and continue talking about the developments that unfold. And something tells me we'll be looking back a year from today, continuing to be amazed by where all this technology has gone. So all of you, have a wonderful week. Happy New Year, and can't wait to see you on the flip side.
Thank you very much. See you guys.
Happy New Year.